Well, Joe, we're going to take a look back at your life and career to date, looking at some random objects related to your life. So if you want to open the box and take a look at our first object.
Okay, let's go.
So you grew up in Narberth, not too far away from Tenby. What do you remember about your childhood and growing up in Narberth?
It's a great place to grow up, first and foremost. Yeah, loved it. Beautiful part of the world. Obviously the coast and the beaches are well known, well renowned, and had a lot of me and my family had a great time growing up.
Where would you say your love of football came from?
It's a big love of the family, to be honest with you. Grew up in a household always watching football. Parents always had it on the TV, and then my brother loved playing, having an older brother. Obviously that's who you spend a lot of your time playing with when you're really young, and then whether it was school or whether it was my friends outside of school, that was pretty much what we'd be doing.
You mentioned your brother there, your older brother Harry lost his hearing at the age of 18 months when he contracted meningitis. He's gone on to be an ambassador for Action on Hearing Loss Cymru, and he's assistant manager of Wales Deaf football team. How much of an inspiration has his journey been?
A huge inspiration. Our family is incredibly proud of him. Obviously, terrible to have contracted meningitis and to lose his hearing as a baby, and just so impressed with how he's dealt with that in his life. He's never let it hold him back. You know, he was lucky that they made grounds with the cochlear implant, which has been a huge help for him. So that's helped him a lot with his hearing, and his speech is brilliant as well. So he had to work really hard. Obviously my parents and our family, parents in particular, were incredible with him, gave him all the help and support they could, and just so proud that he's gone on to, like you say, to do those things. He's loves football and was a very good player himself.
The Wales Deaf football team have their own Euros to look forward to this summer. Now that will be a special achievement for your family, given you've played in 2 Euros yourself.
Great that he's involved now, like you said, with the on the staff side of things, with the coaching and management. He played for Wales Deaf himself and got a bronze in the Deaf Olympics in 2015 with Team GB Deaf. So another achievement for him. Yeah, we're all looking forward to how they get on in the summer.
So you initially played for Tenby and then you joined the Swan setup at the age of 9. How did you get into that setup and where were you training?
It was great when I joined Tenby, a great setup. I have to give huge thanks to Ange Nichols, who was coached through the age groups there for a couple of years with me, and also with Pembrokeshire Schools. So I went into a great setup there, really good team, and then I actually remember it, I was at home, my dad had a call from a scout, Ray Evans, who basically offered the chance of a 6-week trial at Swansea, and whether I wanted to take up that chance, which, the answer was pretty obvious. I was so excited and couldn't wait to get up to Swansea and do whatever it took to get signed up.
There must have been some commitment going back and forth from West Wales for training every day.
Yeah, huge. So it was, I think it's they probably upped it these days. It was twice a week for training, and then on the weekend, we'd have a match which could be, anywhere from Plymouth, Bournemouth, Torquay. So there was a fair bit of travelling for the games, but training itself was an hour up the road and back, which I'm just so lucky that I've got parents that were willing to make that commitment for for a 9-year-old, not knowing whether I'd go on to make it professionally, but they gave me that chance. Thankfully it's all worked out, but there's no way I could have done it without the love and support of them, and I'm really glad that they were willing to put in the hours.
Now I don't know if you remember this, but Brian Flynn told us one story where he made you stand on the centre circle, and to develop your range of passing, he'd ask you to hit passes to each corner flag. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah. We used to do those sort of drills, yeah, quite often. Another person who's had a huge impact on my career. Yeah, one of the real sore spots in my career. I didn't make the Victory Shield squad, which was a huge ambition of mine as a kid. Used to watch it on the TV every year and was convinced I was good enough to make that squad and didn't, which was tough to take. But he was doing the 17s, 19s and 21s at the time, so thankfully he saw it a bit differently and I got into the Welsh setup. And you know, as a smaller midfielder himself, I'm pretty sure he didn't think it was something that would hold me back. And yeah, those sort of drills, they're the sort of things we used to work on, and yeah, had a big impact on my game and certainly on my career with Wales.
You made your way through the academy, broke into the first team. Now that dressing room was full of big characters, the likes of Truns, Robbo, Tatey, Brits, Monks. How did you find that dressing room initially, and do you think that helped to develop your character? Absolutely.
What a dressing room to come into. Like you said, full of character, full of personality, some brilliant players, just a great environment really. And yeah, I was sort of 16 when I was thrown into that environment, which you know, it's a little bit sink or swim, or whether you can kind of cope with obviously the level of the football and the demands, yeah, of being around the first team. And I loved it. I loved it from minute one. Don't get me wrong, I think for any young player it's intimidating, of course, to go into a senior dressing room. No, but those guys were great with me. Still in touch with a lot of them. Some club legends in there, and it was, I have to say, was very lucky to come into just the perfect place for a young player trying to make his way in the game.
You made your debut as a sub against Blackpool. What do you remember about that?
Well, it was a dream come true. It came, you know, I trained with the first team. I'd had an appearance. I think I played in the Welsh Cup and had been on the bench a few times when Kenny Jackett was manager. So yeah, we'd had a few injury crises and things during that season. So I'd had a little bit of a sniff around the first team. And then Roberto came in and I seemed to be involved, certainly with training a lot more. But until the morning of the game, I didn't know I was in the squad, which I'm sure was a calculated decision from the guys. So it was all quite last minute, really, getting to the ground, understanding that I'd be on the bench. You know, wasn't sure whether I'd get on the pitch. It was a huge game. I don't know if you remember it. It was we were still fighting to potentially get in the playoffs. So an enormous game to be involved in. It didn't go our way. So for most people, probably not a very fond memory, but for me, it was one of the great memories to get on and feature and have my first appearance. What a day that was.
Special. So if you want to take a look at our next object, it's an iconic Swans photo. What a time to score your first Swans goal.
Yeah, I'd obviously been around the first team for a couple of years at this point, and was still awaiting that first one. And I remember that day, I thought, you know, could this be the day that it finally happens? What a time to do it would be. And yeah, just thrilling to have done it in this fixture. You know, for any young lad that's come through the Swan setup, this is the game you want to score in. And unfortunately, it wasn't the winner, but it was late in the game at the time. I thought it could be. Obviously, you can see, yeah, just how excited and passionate I was, and yeah, a goal I'm really proud of.
Do you remember the goal vividly? Can you talk us through it?
I do. I remember the ball. It was quite crowded when it came to. I think it came into my chest, and it bounced about off me and off another player, I think, once or twice, and then I was trying to set it to get the shot away. I remember didn't quite get the first set right. Took probably another touch or maybe even a third to get it out of my feet, and then sometimes you just hit a ball. You know, you just hit it clean, and you know it's got every chance. And I could just see it was Aaron straight for the corner. So I think before the ball had even hit the back of the net, I was off. Yeah, and don't think the stewards are too happy. He was sort of pushing them out of the way to get to the Swans' end.
Open up Cardiff City for one more time. Pintado played to Joe Allen. He's got a chance to let one go, and he scored! The youngster, in his first ever appearance in a Welsh derby, the 19-year-old Joe Allen, has he won it for Swansea City here?
I remember my sister was in the crowd, so she talks a lot about, you know, being there that day and just what a moment it was.
I was going to ask if you had a lot of family there, but what a day for them. I guess that's a day they'll never forget.
No, it's not. It's just the one small thing. I'm still fuming about the penalty that got given.
I know.
It was a pretty shocking decision, and you know, we were still well and truly in the playoff race at that point. So you know, to have beaten Cardiff that day, and for the goal to potentially have been the winner, would have been the added bonus, but it wasn't quite to be.
How much do you enjoy playing in derbies like this?
I love them. Yeah, the games that everyone looks forward to most during the season. You know, people can try and play it down or try and spin things, but no, they're the games you want to be involved in, you want to play in, and you certainly want to win.
How did the South Wales derby compare to the Merseyside derby?
Good question. I think Everton fans might not like this. I think the Goodison derby was a lot. I think the atmosphere was a lot more, I don't know what to call it, aggressive, I suppose, and hostile. But Liverpool's record at home against Everton's been so good for so many years. I think at Anfield, the bigger game, certainly, you know, might not be everyone's view, but for me was when Liverpool played Man United. But no, the South Wales derby, home or away, has a huge edge to it.
Next up, we have a shirt from the playoff final at Wembley. Now, you played in a World Cup, played in the Champions League, but where does winning promotion to the Premier League with your childhood team rank?
Oh, that ranks right up there. That is, I mean, that was a life-changing day. You know, a huge moment for the club, for the fans, for all the players involved, and for me, you know, it was huge achievement in my career, and obviously changed everything. You know, it led us into the Premier League, where we dreamed as a club of getting to, but it hadn't looked very realistic for you know, for a while. And you only had to go back a few years ago, and it was, you know, we were scrapping out at the other end of the Football League. So what a day. I'll never forget it. Certainly ranks right up there for one of the greatest moments in my life.
Against Adam Federici, Sinclair hits it, sends Federici the wrong way, and this is Doby breaking into the penalty area right hand side. It's Scott Sinclair again, it's 2-0 Swansea City. He's scrambling back to get goal side, and Nathan Dyer attacks McAnuff, goes down the right hand side, slides in the cross, third goal Swansea City. Oh, they can start planning their trips to the Premier League now, because Stephen Doby has scored. It's 3-0.
It was a dream first half. We were flying. What was said in the dressing room at half-time?
All the things you'd expect, really. I think the biggest battle was probably to contain the excitement of being 3 goals up at half-time in the playoff final. You know, you're trying to battle, you know, the thoughts and feelings of, you know, we've nearly done it. And the message was, it's not over. You know, seen it in football time and time again. They're going to come out, they're going to throw the kitchen sink at it. They've got absolutely nothing to lose, everything to possibly gain. And that's exactly what they did. We were expecting it. We you know, we tried to deal with it as best we could, but to be fair, you know, when they got it back to 3-2, it was, yeah, the job certainly wasn't done. But thankfully, when we got that fourth, that was the moment, I think, a massive moment of both of relief and probably the moment where people started really, really, truly saying it's going to happen, and we're headed for the Premier League.
What do you remember of the celebrations after the game?
Well, it's a good question, because Lacey, my wife, actually got appendicitis.
Oh no!
So she travelled up, and she was she should never have travelled up, but I didn't know about this. They kept it from me.
She
But
had to be there.
she wanted to be there. She travelled up, and then had to go to a hospital near Wembley. So straight after the game, basically, I was looking out for her. I couldn't see her, and after we got back to the dressing room, sort of realised, oh, as amazing as this is, I've got to head straight to the hospital. And thankfully, Lacey was fine. And but it did it put an end to that night's celebrations for me.
Was it surreal knowing that you joined the academy of a League One club, and now you were part of the team that had got the club to the Premier League, and you were now a Premier League player?
Yeah, it was surreal. It really was. I remember there's things that stick with you. Obviously, the whole game. I remember being there. You know, the first promotion from League Two as a fan. I remember, the whole game. Obviously, being part of the Centre of Excellence, as it was known at the time. There was a lot of talk, a lot of rumours. Didn't know how true it was, but if we didn't survive, you know, for all the younger ages, we were wondering, you know, would that put an end to it all, and would we all be, you know, looking for basically either going back to our old clubs or looking for new ones. So so tense around that time. A huge moment to survive, and then obviously we had the first promotion, and then I remember even the League One season where Martinez came back, and we were flying that season. I think amongst the players, I remember at the start of the first championship season, everyone was saying it would be amazing if we could stay up. First and foremost, you know, that's got to be the target for the season. And Martinez quickly, you know, put that to bed and said, "No, we're good. We've got bigger, you know, we've got bigger aims and aspirations than that, and so should you." And a few games into the season, we realised, you know what, we're probably better than we realised as a team, and that's when we probably started looking up towards the Premier League rather than over our shoulder and worrying about how long we'd be able to stay in the Championship.
Do you want to have a look what we've got up next? Now, you joined Liverpool in the summer of 2012. Was it tough leaving the club you've been at since the age of 9?
Yeah, it really was. I think it was, you know, when a historic club like Liverpool comes calling, it's almost impossible to, you know, to turn it down. Maybe there's some people that would be able to do that, but no, it was a real, you know, conflict of emotions. Really, I was, you know, I was thrilled that a club like them would want to sign me, but in order to do that and make that happen, I was leaving, you know, the club I loved and the club that I'd had in such a short space of time. Really, so many good times, so many successes, and as I mentioned earlier, I was part of a group of players that were brilliant. So you know, it was a great summer, and to get that opportunity to join one of the world's biggest clubs was was fantastic.
Brendan Rodgers had obviously been a manager who was integral in your development as a player. How did it feel to be linking up with him again? Yeah,
it was. I mean, it was great. He was, you know, I knew his methods well, and he was signing a player who he knew really well. So yeah, that definitely was a big help, a big draw, of course. You know, he'd done an incredible job in taking us up, and then you know, in that first season in the Premier League, some of the football we played and how well we did was, you know, huge credit has to go to him. Yeah, and for me it was the combo of joining, like I said, a huge club in Liverpool, and also with a manager knows me and who I'd worked with before. It was an opportunity I found too good to turn down.
Now, you got close to winning the Premier League in your second season at Liverpool. You were on the pitch for the loss against Chelsea at Anfield, and you even scored in the 3-3 draw at Selhurst Park against Crystal Palace, where the title was pretty much conceded. How hard was that to take, given you were so close to history?
I mean, it was incredibly tough at the time. I think even tougher as time's gone on. For me, you know, it feels like the one that slipped away, if you know what I mean. The chance of winning the Premier League is, you know, it's heartbreaking really. The games you mentioned, a lot of focus has been on the Palace game, but the Chelsea games, was a real hammer blow really. It put it back into Man City's hands going into the last game of the season. So unfortunately, had to settle for second place, but it was a great season. You know, we had the likes of Suarez, Gerrard, Coutinho, like so many good players just on fire, playing some unbelievable stuff, scoring so many goals, and to have been a part of that, it was great. And if only we could have got, you know, the couple more points we needed over the season, it could have been a lot different.
The following season, you played in the Champions League with Liverpool, playing in grounds like the Santiago Bernabeu. In 2016, you came on as a substitute in the Europa League final. Were they occasions you'd dreamed of playing in as a kid?
Absolutely. The Champions League, that was incredible. You know, I'd grown up watching it religiously. Unfortunately, I didn't get as many. You know, you join a club like Liverpool, I would have hoped to have played in it a lot more. You know, and we didn't get out the group stages, unfortunately, that season. So it was a bit of a disappointment from that point of view. But no, to have played those games, to have played, you know, Real Madrid home and away, from where I'd come from, it's hard to believe, but loved it.
Moving on to your Wales career, if you want to have a look in the box. You made your senior Wales debut in a 1-0 win against Estonia and Llanelli in May 2009. That was Wales's youngest side in history. Did it feel like that was the start of a new generation for Wales?
It did. I think the signs had been there for a while that that there was a chance of the younger and next generation of players that, you know, we'd be able to achieve better things. I think, you know, the likes of Gareth, Aaron, Chris Gunter had been up earlier than even that year or that summer. But a lot of my teammates from the under-21s and the boys who'd been involved in the younger setups had a chance to step up, and I was trying to make the case known that I could be next, and thankfully that summer I got the chance to be in the squad and to get that first cap, which it goes without saying, a huge moment for me. Really, really proud. Not the most glamorous sort of tie, friendly obviously in the summer, but that didn't matter to me. Great to get out there, and I was just hoping it was, you know, it wouldn't be the only one that I'd get.
Gary Speed became Wales manager in 2011. How much did you enjoy playing under him?
Loved it. He was brilliant. I think having recently, you know, he hadn't finished playing that long before, and he just brought a new, fresh, very modern approach. Didn't leave any sort of stone unturned in terms of, you know, anything really. Certainly off the pitch stuff, and then just his way of training and playing. Had a great impact on the lads. You know, and you could see under him just how many improvements we made in such a short space of time, and you know, anyone who played under Gary at that time owes him so much.
We jumped from 116th to 48th in the FIFA rankings under his guidance. So do you think he really laid the foundations for the future success?
Yeah, he certainly did. I remember think it was the Norway game was the last one before sadly he passed away, and everyone left that camp with just a huge belief that we were turning things around. Things were all headed in the right direction, and so many foundations were laid down for what came after it.
You also played at the Olympics with Team GB. Now that was your first experience of tournament football. Did that whet your appetite in terms of wanting to be part of a Wales squad in future tournaments?
Yeah, it did. Just that, the experience of being obviously on a camp for a few weeks during the summer months, it gave me a taste, and the likes of Aaron, Neil Taylor and others who were there, we wanted more of it, and in a Welsh shirt and for Wales. So we talked a lot to the lads who were in the Welsh squad about it after. Not that everyone was so hungry and ambitious to do it anyway. They didn't need any more pushing or anything like that. But we thought with the group we had, look, it's about time we did it.
Moving on to the Euros, if you want to have a look now. Your sticker from Euro 2016. Ahead of the tournament, the FAW spoke to people who'd played in tournaments like Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, to get their input. And they said that you should have a choice on rooms, you should have your own rooms, families should be able to visit. Do you think that made a difference?
Yeah, I think our approach to it was, we know just how enormous it is, the tournament, but as a group we're trusted to, we didn't need to have ridiculously strict we didn't have to make it a prison camp basically.
Yeah.
So no, that's the way we'd done it in the success leading up to qualifying, and no, it was certainly a summer where when we were working extremely hard, and when it was downtime, the players are hugely grateful that we were allowed to see our families, for example, on certain days, and that we kept things pretty laid back when we were away from the training pitch and away from the games.
Did you have a roomie or did you have your own room?
I had my own room, but for years it's been Neil Taylor, generally speaking. So he's been my roomie throughout these all the Wales journey.
You were based in Dinard. What was that like? Because I heard it was kind of removed from the tournament environment, so it was like your own little haven to go back to. Exactly
that. It was. I thought it was perfect. I thought the FAW nailed it. It probably wasn't the first pick for a lot of the biggest nations or what have you, but I thought for what we needed, it worked so well and helped us so much. Like you say, we were sort of flying into the carnage of the tournament itself for the games, and you're right amongst obviously all the excitement, all the fans, and then we were able to sort of dip back out, switch off, be separated from it once again, and just a really beautiful place we stayed, nice quiet location, and as a group we absolutely loved it there.
You must have had the time of your life that summer. Where do you think that summer ranks in your career?
That summer's, it's one of the best summers in my life, because absolutely loved it. What an experience, what a journey, the connection amongst the group itself, the connection with the whole country and all the fans, the excitement throughout the whole country, in terms of following the games, travelling to see the games and hearing all the stories from back home and all the footage from back home. It really was, it was something else, and when it all finished, there was a real sense from everyone. I think it was almost like the blues straight after, where it was like the come down. But we all said we've got to try and make something like that happen again.
In a relatively short space of time, you'd gone from playing in front of 4,000 in Llanelli to playing in crowds over 55,000, thousands of Welsh fans there. It captured the nation. Could you grasp how far Welsh football had progressed in that time too?
No, that summer blew everyone, all of us away really, with just how much it had grown, just how much interest everyone had in just how the team was doing in the tournament. It was such a far cry from, only a few years before, where things had really been dwindling for a long time. And as a kid, I used to go to games at the Millennium Stadium where it would be sold out, and all of a sudden we were sort of, down to the low thousands. So we'd fallen a long way, and that summer where things peaked and really took off would have been difficult to imagine, I think, only a few years before.
You were named in the team of the tournament. What were your standout memories of the summer?
Wow, I think I'll try and be quick because this could be a long answer, but some of the things that stand out, I remember going for a pre-match walk before the first game, and there was a sea of red outside the hotel and people just could not wait for the game to start. That gave the players a huge boost. The anthem for that first game against Slovakia was such an emotional and passionate moment, and then the victory itself, that day was what a start to the tournament. Everything we dreamed of, and I'll try and skip through the Russia game. The Russia game, in terms of performance, I thought we were brilliant that day, blew them away. And then obviously the Belgium game. The moment that Vokesy scores that header is, from the crowd to the pitch, what a moment. What a moment. One I'll never forget, one we talk about all the time, and go back to. Yeah, they're some of the standouts, really. You
also reached Euro 2020, which was moved to 2021 due to the COVID pandemic. Now for you, the pandemic was kind of a blessing in disguise, because had it taken place when it was originally meant to, you would have been injured. Were you grateful to have that second chance?
Yeah, the second I ruptured my Achilles and it was sort of confirmed pretty much on the pitch, my first thought was, that's the Euros done. That dream is dead. So, look, it's in terrible circumstances that it got delayed, but for me, it gave me a chance to get fit, and kept the hope alive that I wouldn't actually, in fact, miss those Euros. And it would have been tough to take had I not been part of it, but thankfully, a year later, I was, and great to have had the chance to play in a second one.
Right, have a look. You're going to hate this one. You're not a player who likes the limelight. You purely play football just for the love of the game, but you inherited the Welsh Pirlo nickname. Now, I know you're not the biggest fan of it, but it must have been flattering drawing comparisons to someone like Pirlo.
Yeah, of course it is. I think it's an unfair comparison for the man himself, but what a player he is. Obviously with my longer hair, that's where the link came from, and trust me, there's worse nicknames you can have than the Welsh Pirlo. Was
the hair based on him, or? Because if I squint, that looks like Joe
Allen. No, it wasn't the reason for the long hair. That was just something, God knows what started it. But it tied in, the long hair with obviously the great summer with the football in the Euros, and as I said, it's it's a pretty cool nickname to have, I guess.
I think we need to call him the Italian Joe Allen instead.
I think he'd ask you who are you talking about.
Right, we have something very special in the box this time. So if you want to have a look, it's your cap from the World Cup. As a squad, how special was it to qualify for a World Cup? It was obviously something you've been working towards for a number of years.
Well, this was the big one. We had the Euros obviously in 2016, and through everything at trying to qualify for the World Cup after that, fell a little bit short. That was a blow. But for some of us, we knew in another 4 years we'll hopefully still be a part of it and still get another chance. And it was something the whole country had been waiting so long for, and it was about time we got there.
I can't recall many atmospheres as great as the Ukraine game. How did that feel on the pitch?
It was unbelievable. We'd had the Austria game before it. That was unbelievable. And then the Ukraine game was just another level again. The atmosphere and support we had that day, the whole country knew just how much it meant to get there, and helped us so much, with getting that game over the line, certainly late in the game. I remember the national anthem getting sung before the end. And as players, it was really hard to control emotions late in the game, because we still had a few minutes to get it over the line. But similar to the playoff final, really, we thought maybe we've done it.
It was something that Gary Speed had targeted. Did it make you feel proud to have achieved that in his memory too?
It did, yeah. It certainly did. He aimed. He rightly aimed a lot higher than probably, a lot of people would have. But he saw something. He saw, he had ambition and saw that our country should be doing better. And why shouldn't we dream of getting to the World Cup? So it's been a great journey. One of those moments where you reflect. I think after qualifying, you reflect on what it's taken to get here, and really, really, really proud that for the first time in such a long time, Wales finally getting we were finally going to represent our country on the biggest stage.
It obviously didn't end the way we wanted it to. But now, with hindsight, can you appreciate how great an achievement it was to represent Wales at the World Cup? Only 32 players in history have ever done that.
Yeah, you're so right. With hindsight, with more time, I think as more time passes, you understand just how big it is, just how proud everyone involved should be. We've all talked and spoke about the disappointment of the tournament itself. We wish we could have done better, but it's certainly something to be proud of. And from being a kid dreaming of playing in the World Cup for Wales, it seemed like a pipe dream, I think, really. But I was one of the fortunate ones who managed to experience it. In
the run-up to the World Cup, was there ever a doubt in your mind that your injury might have stopped you from playing in it?
Yeah, there was. There was a moment where it wasn't going to happen. That was sort of the. That was the initial sort of, diagnosis and reaction to the severity of the injury. I had a moment where it didn't seem like it was even an option to try. And then. But when the dust settled and we looked at options and looked what can be done, what are the chances, even, it doesn't matter how slim they are, what can I do to get there? And thankfully I had amazing support from obviously the Swans medical team, good friends of mine, Matt Konopinski and Chris Morgan at R4P in Liverpool, gave up so much time and energy and threw the kitchen sink at all the options available in terms of rehab, and then I have to say thanks to Rob Page and the Wales medical staff as well. Not only did they help me, but they gave me the chance to prove my fitness when they were under pressure to pick a squad, and they kept a space for me to try and make it. So real roller coaster from not going to be there at all. Then a race to try and get there, and thankfully, as disappointing as the tournament it went, got onto the pitch and got the chance to play at a World Cup.
How tough a decision was it to retire from international duty? And now, how do you reflect on 74 caps and 3 major tournaments with Wales?
Yeah, I'm really proud, obviously, of the tournaments in particular. The caps, I wish it could have been more. I missed a lot over the years, and as any player will tell you, I think 100's the real benchmark and real target that you want to aspire to get to. But look, 74 isn't too bad. The decision to retire was really tough. Really tough. I not completely, but thought in the last game in the World Cup that it probably was my last game for Wales. So I was trying to hold it together. Yeah, and then I'd gone back and forth in my head for a long time on whether it was the right decision and right choice. But I think age catches up with you, injuries catch up with you. There's so many reasons you need to make way. I think in international squads in particular, there's sometimes it feels like there's a like I was a young player coming through the years before. You sometimes have to clear a pathway as well for what comes next, and all these things added together. Thought it was the right time, and it was tough. I'm not going to hide away from that, but proud, I suppose, overall of the career I had in the Welsh shirt.
Last one, it's a bit random if you want to have a look. So you moved back home in the summer of 2022. You had a small Holden farm, which this references to. Why did you decide to come home?
Because home is home. I'd been away for the best part of 10 years at that point. Don't get me wrong, I'd loved it, I'd had a great time, but I think between me and my wife, we were pining, if there's a chance to come home, we want to do it. I'd actually moved, we actually found a house and sort of half moved back. I think it was 18 months before I finally signed back at the Swans. But as soon as there's an opportunity to come home, I wanted to jump at it, and thankfully the club were open to it, and Russell Martin was really keen to get it done and helped with that. And when I went away the first time, I talked a lot about hopefully having the chance to return and finish my career back home, and absolutely jumped at the chance to do that.
Did it feel like your career had gone full circle?
Yeah, I've seen it, with other players, and I can understand why. I think, when you leave your boyhood club, you can't help but keep an eye out on one, how they're doing, and two, when the time's right, will I get a chance to wear that shirt again and represent the club again? And that was always a plan in football. It can be difficult to make any sort of plans because things change quickly, but it all worked out, and such a privilege to join that summer and get back to how things were before.
Now, in terms of this season, we're pretty early days in the Luke Williams era, but what are your aims for the remainder of the season?
With the gaffer coming in, he's really he spread so much enthusiasm into the group. His methods and style of play and how he works and how he speaks takes sessions, takes meetings. I think it's been a great start, and I think it's gonna have a big influence on the team and on our fortunes on the pitch. So really confident that there's going to be an uptick in our performances and results, and everyone wants to finish the season as strongly as possible. Hoping to be, a big part of that.
Well, thank you, Joe. I know you're not the biggest fan of interviews, so I really appreciate it. And I feel like I know a lot more about Joe Allen as a person now, so thank you.
Great, thanks, Soph. It's been a pleasure.